This is Zettelcast, brought to you by readers, writers, thinkers, and teachers from LiLLiPub, along with our partners in thought, our Zettelcastans. In this show, we share discoveries that our Zettelcastans have shown us.
There you go.
And compare notes on how we're using this marvelous invention in our creative work. Thank you for joining us.
All right, Brooke.
Let's do it again.
All right.
Episode 75, Notecard Nerd-Along, Part 2.
Hello, everybody. This is Zettelcast number 75. And we're still looking into research-based writing. So this is what I came up with for today's session. I'm asking that we pick one of 5 arenas that I've listed below, do whatever research you're drawn to, and write a story, a scene, a poem, a ditty, whatever, to share today. And optionally include why you were drawn to that particular arena. So the arenas, there are 5 of them. It's invisibility, which is the science, sociology, and lived experience of being unseen. Number 2 is threshold, that charged moment between states, between sleep and awake, belonging and exile, before and after. The 3rd, when the body decides, the intelligence operating below conscious awareness. Or the 4th, time distortion, when time speeds up, slows down, or disappears entirely. And 5th and last choice was the cost of silence. What silence does structurally, relationally, neurologically. So those were the 5 choices. So who wants to go first?
I'm willing to go first.
Okay.
Okay. I chose to combine 2 of those because my character, Teresita, nicely fits in with both number 1 on invisibility, the problem of not being seen, along with thresholds, a charged moment between states, because Teresita is about to undergo a change of state from being unseen to being seen.
Yeah.
And so it fit in perfectly. And so this is my story card, and my research, mostly I drew from the book, The Developing Mind by Daniel Siegel. And he discusses several places in the book the question of feeling felt, which he also describes as expressing emotions around when you express emotions, having someone else reflect them back, they've noticed a change in you. That's part of being seen. Eye contact is part of being seen. Changes in facial expression. Being seen affects cognitive development, which we really see in Teresita. Teresita suffered an injury where her father had given her a toy that was not meant for her age group, but he was so convinced that she was developmentally advanced that she would be fine with it. Then he didn't remove it from her crib, and she suffered a choking injury, which injured her thorax, so she didn't have the vocal response, and they feared also that there was brain damage. And so when her father ran away, skedaddled, and her mother ended up having a lot of guilt around the experience and didn't expect much out of Teresita. That plus the fact that adults generally communicated through the link and parents had to make a conscious effort to go outside of the link to talk to their infants and children, she just didn't do that because she didn't think that Teresita had the mental capabilities for that. So Teresita grew up without that sense of being seen. But now in where we left her in the last episode, where she was starting to gather bast to create a Bezier belt and had actually made a connection with Bala on the ship. So this is where the story picks up. Eyes seldom seeing. Before the second build-up, Rosa didn't even try to find someone to stay with Teresita. On the first visit, she had been no problem at all. When she wasn't sitting under that big tree, she was off gathering weeds. She didn't bother anyone, but then Teresita never did seem to need company. Later, Teresita accepted the plate of food Rosa had brought her from the cookout, but had no interest in sitting with the others to eat. Well, that was Teresita, no helping that. On the second trip, Teresita promptly settled in at the base of Jinx and unwrapped her small bale of remaining bast and her nearly finished project. Happy to know that if she ran short, she could surely gather more bast as needed. After dropping her off, Rosa joined the gathering without looking back. Teresita was accustomed to eyes that seldom saw her. Mostly eyes passed over her on their way to looking at something else. Sometimes startled eyes caught hers without meaning to. Embarrassed, they quickly shifted, sometimes muttering something or giving an apologetic nod. But she never saw eyes that sought her out, held hers, and listened for her. Bala had listened for her. It was what she treasured most about the previous build-up. She had listened for him ever since, but though she watched the videos again and again, he never once spoke to her. Now she spread her work out before her and stroked the bale of bast as she had witnessed Bala do so many times. "Sweet bast," she sang softly, "which strand will come with me? This one? This one? Ah, this one will. Ah, little strand of bast, show me where to place you." She felt a soft presence in her thou. "Bala?" "Uh-huh. Look how nicely your belt is coming." Sigh and a few tears escaped Teresita's eyes. She brushed them aside and contentedly continued weaving. No longer worried about eyes that never see her, her friend was with her, and she was caressed by this amazing tree. And so as the day grew soft and dim, the belt was finished. "Try it on," Bala coaxed. At first she felt glued to the spot where she'd been sitting for so long. Finally she got to her feet and wrapped the belt around her middle. It felt divine. It felt possible. It felt sure. It felt strong. It felt like someone was looking at her. Teresita looked back to see if it was true, expecting the eyes to see through her to some distant vista of intent. Instead, the eyes looked surprised to see her standing at the feet of Jinx, but the eyes shifted quickly to take in what she was wearing, her weaving from the bast she had gathered. Then the eyes moved to her eyes and stayed there forever, or so it seemed, perhaps only a moment. "Is that a Bezier belt you're wearing?" the young woman asked. "Chris?" The young woman turned away to call for another. Teresita felt relieved. But no, the eyes were back, and now there were two pairs of eyes looking at her. "Teresita?" the young man asked with a note of self-conscious fear of seeming ridiculous. That's when Teresita realized they had been speaking actual words. She wanted to answer yes, but she wasn't sure she could form it, so she simply nodded.
She simply nodded, yes.
Ooh.
That's fantastic. Her ongoing story just keeps unfolding and unfolding, blossoming, really, opening up and we can see her becoming, it's really a nice storytelling job that you're doing there.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
It's good. It's good.
Keep having to rub my legs because of the chills you keep putting on.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's it. Wonderful. There's not I can't wait for the next installment. That's all I can say. That's it. That's it. All right. So Julianne, are you?
Yeah.
Okay.
So The the area that I chose had to do with the sense of time dilation.
Mm.
Not that I have necessarily depicted time dilation. I did some research on that, which will probably play a part at some point, but I ended up feeling drawn to something related. Um, so the thing I was drawn to, there are two books that I took some notes from. And the first one is The Big Leap
Ah.
by Gay Hendricks. And in The Big Leap, Gay Hendricks has a chapter called Living in Einstein Time,
Mm.
creating time for the full expression of your genius.
Ah.
And I highly recommend this book. It's really very inspirational, and it says a number of things that challenge you to try it. Don't just believe it, or don't just disbelieve it. And so one of the things so here, basically, I've distilled the 3 points about living. Well, the point of living in Einstein time is that you are the source of time. You are the source of time. He says it, and now, the challenge is to truly get that. And so he has the mechanics in this chapter of living. He tells about, examples of what it's like. And it's basically a lot of like what Helen has gone through, where miraculously she has just enough time to do what she needs to do. That's the Einstein time. So the mechanics of living in Einstein time, which are to embody the insight that you are the source of time. There are 3 of them. The first one is you have to ask yourself a question. Where in my life am I not taking full ownership?
Mm-hmm.
And to that, I think it's not necessarily just one thing. And it's not about where haven't I? It's right now. Where am I not taking full ownership right now? So there's that. And he says, he has different ways of phrasing it, such as, what am I disowning?
Mm.
Which is a different flavor of not taking ownership. It's, more like avoidance. Mechanic number 2, which I have put as dispel all reactivity towards time as an other,
Mm.
as a something whose quantity is managed by an other, or as a blind force that oppresses you. And the very simple way, he says, to begin is start by removing complaints from your speech or excuses that disguise your being owner of your own time. So complaining about not having enough time, wishing for more time, wishing for more hours in the day. Be on the lookout for all of those things that act like something other than you is the source of your time and is a brutal oppressor of you in some cases, right? So that's the second one. He gives lots of examples of those kinds of sentences, some of which are sneaky, kind of like, passive aggressive ways of phrasing it. And then the third one, become acquainted with the body sense of time pressure, or what you have come to label as that, and of boredom.
Don't know that one.
And if you never feel bored ever, can you imagine feeling bored? And what does that imagination look like? Because those are kind of the two poles, and they have, as he describes it, and I agree, he describes the feeling of time pressure. He says, for me, I feel it as something pushing between my spine and my heart. And it's pushing. And boredom feels like a hollow in front of my heart. So it's really getting to know your experience of time. So that's one thing. And then the second one, and my little story is just 100 words at the moment. It's going to be fleshed out. But what I've just written a card here, and I've just summarized it as Daniel S. Godfrey's Difficult Commission.
Oh.
And it's from this book called The Muse That Sings by Anne McCutcheon. Composers speak about the creative process. And I bought this in the 1990s. And Daniel S. Godfrey's story about his difficult commission really broke my heart. And I really related to it too. He got commissioned to write a piece, and he could barely drag it out of himself. He flirted. He could barely drag it out of himself. Yeah. He flirted with having to give the money back because he was so disempowered to compose this piece. And it was he had written Success High in college, and this was sort of like, hey, come out of college, and it gets this great commission, and then he nearly fails right out of the gate. He does fail out of the gate, but he pulls it back. So my story takes place in the henge. And what will introduce the scene, the 100 words that I'm going to be reading right now. This is kind of in the middle of it. Jenna, who is going to be creating an effigy for the henge from the phrase, in the future, everyone will be famous for 15 minutes, which nobody on the planet understands, which is the point. And she ends up having an interview with a previous contestant of the Henge Effigy Contest. And that previous contestant is Angie Weir, who is the inspiration for the term henge weirdo. And in the story that I read last week, she was the presenter of Sanitation Through the Centuries. And she starts out being very weird. This is loo roll. Right. So she ends up having an interview with Angie. And this is kind of in the middle. Before she knows what she is doing, Jenna reaches to hold Angie close. She breathes deeply. They both do. Jenna riding a desultory stir of ache as it slaps mercilessly against her throat and chest. When she feels ready to look her in the eye again, she lifts her head from Angie's shoulder, continuing the embrace in silence. Angie speaks first. Thank you, she says. I'm better now. Backed off a little more, hands in hands now. Thank you, Jenna says. Tell me the phrase again. Angie, haunted composure fully restored, says, you're a day late and $1 short.
That's a good one.
Yeah, I almost want you to read it again.
Oh my gosh, you want to know what came before, and it's magical. Yeah, a beautifully captured moment.
Thank you.
Wow. Yeah, even those 100 words, not to speak of what's coming after. Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Wow, you guys really rose to the occasion.
You threw out some beefy choices there. You have to.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, for my part, I had some personal issues. No excuse, just a reason, that I don't have a story written and ready to present. But I'll tell you that my story is about the guy who spent 18 years in the DeGaulle airport. You've heard of him?
They
Yeah.
made a movie about him, right? Sort
Yeah,
of where he's based.
with um what's his name? Tom Hanks played his part.
Uh-huh.
But it really didn't it wasn't absolutely true to life. I
Yeah.
mean, Spielberg did a lot of messing about, in that story, in that depiction. But it did jump off from that incident. And I mean, just imagine. And I wrote a paper in 2003 on this guy.
Uh,
Cannot find the paper.
oh man.
I remember distinctly writing the paper and reading it and having it, accepted in my class at NYU. So it was that I would love to have found that paper, but I have stopped chiding myself and hitting myself over the head for not being able to find X, Y, or Z. And I just go forward and thank the memory gods that I remember that I did it, you know. So I mean, this guy already had problems in his home. He was from Iran or Iran, however that is pronounced. Um, and his father, who was an engineer, died, and there was some big riff-raff in his family about the inheritance. And he said it belonged to him, and the family said, "What?" you know, and basically they bribed him and sent him off to the UK so he could get out of their hair and go off and be someplace else and be himself. While he was in the UK, he got involved with protest movement, okay, against the Shah at the time. And the Shah was kind of my take on him is that he was a no nonsense guy. You follow my rules, and that's that, And anybody who said even a little tiny thing against him, he would send his military police, his security, National Guard people. Not National Guard. That's somebody else we know. But he sent the militia after these people. And they weren't nice. They beat them and all kinds of things, put them in prison and all kinds of things. So the protest was this was in the 70s. This is not like it was back in ancient times. And that was the reason of all the protests. Then when he finished his studies, he went back home and they said, buddy, we don't want you here. So they took his passport, right? And said, be gone. But the documentation does not underscore that. The documentation, insofar as Iran is concerned, is not there. They say, no, we didn't do that. or actually, they don't say they didn't do it, and they don't say they did do it. They kind of washed their hands of it, and he ended up roaming around for 11 years until he decided he wanted to go back to the UK. And he had his papers when he got on the plane. When he got off the plane, got ready to in Paris, his papers were gone. His papers were gone, so he couldn't go anywhere. He couldn't leave the airport. That's the only place he could legally be. And they said the people who ran the show said, okay, you just stay there until we figure it out. Oh my goodness. He ended up staying there 18 years. 18 years on a red bench. On a red bench. And people, I mean, the relationships that he formed, he ended up, the flight attendants and the pilots, they had their compensation, they got food vouchers.
Uh-huh.
But instead of using the food vouchers, most of them brought their food from home. So they gave him the vouchers.
Oh.
So he was able to, he was never hungry.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if you didn't mind a steady plate of, McDonald's or what is it called? Chick-fil-A.
Chick-fil-A. Chick-fil-A.
Chick-fil-A? Is it Chick-fil-A?
Yeah.
No, it's
Chick-fil-A. I don't know.
it's a Southern thing. But anyway, there was this one particular chicken place that he ended up liking and having a steady diet of it, because one day he went to McDonald's and something had happened to their French fry machine, and he said, "You're not reliable," and so he just he cut them off. He cut them off. So I mean, as you can see, this man. He called himself Sir Albert. And he carried himself like, a very dignified, competent person. I mean, and every time he went to Chick-fil-A or Philip Chicken, whatever that place was, right? He would actually leave a tip because he was no bum. So the research is rich with this fellow, and people. One of the other ways that he got money was people would come by, reporters would come by and want to hear his story, because nobody could believe that anybody could actually survive without going bonkers, in the airport. I mean, just from the announcements, constantly alone. But it's one of the references indicated, don't worry. I mean, it's the same thing. But if you live next to the subway, you stop hearing it after a while. And so it was the same thing with him. It was just a backdrop of his environment. And he would sit there and he would read his newspapers. They were up 2 or 3 days old, and the newspaper stand guy gave it to him free after a couple of days. But he was happy to get it, and he would discuss politics. He was all into that kind of conversation, economics, all into that. I mean, he would hold forth. But for 18 years. 18 years. So that's the research that I did for this story. And it's about thresholds. The thresholds. Belonging versus exiling, because he was legally proven legally to have gotten on the plane to go back to the UK. And so the stopover in Paris they could not deport him anywhere because he didn't belong anywhere. No country said he belonged at all. So he had to wait for the immigration authorities or the immigration authorities to decide what to do with him. And it took 18 years.
Crazy.
And even though he had a pro bono lawyer who was so upset with the idea of it that he stuck with that guy for 10 years trying to make sure that he got through all the legal ramifications. And when he got the papers after 10 years and walked over to him and said, here you go. He said, nah, I ain't signing that. I ain't signing that. What? What do you mean? Said, okay, well, maybe you have to think about it for a little bit. I'll come back. He came back. I don't know what the interval was between the first visit and the second with this signing, but he refused it the second time as well.
Oh.
And so you're left wondering whether he had, in a way, kind of lost his mind during those 18 years.
Yeah.
And so the only place he had not been rejected was from that red bench. So it was kind of like home.
Wow.
Right. And so, he left in 2007. 2007, but that was only because he was sick.
Oh.
He went to a hospital and then came out, went to a hotel, then he went to a homeless shelter up until September 2022. He went back to the airport.
Wow.
Oh, no.
He went back to the airport and stayed there full time. But he wasn't in Terminal 1. He was in Terminal 2F, I think. Terminal 1 had been his 18-year sprint. When he went back, he was in Terminal 2F. Sad thing, he had a heart attack in November and died.
Oh. Too much fast food.
Far too much fast food. He only had fast food. He only had that chicken day in, day out, how many ever times a day, he had the same fare. So I got the research done, but just not the story.
Do you think you will write a story about him or a different story inspired by him?
I'm going to write a story talking about that hinge, right? Between belonging and exile or not belonging. That place. Because you can have all the legal papers and still feel exiled. It's because it's not. It has two realities, two manifestations. One is physical, and the other is administrative. Or is mental and administrative. So the I don't know. I don't know. It's according to what comes to me. Vanessa had her poll where she was asking what type of writers make up the population of this organization, LiLLiPub. And so far, I'm the only pantser in the bunch. But I fully recognize myself as a pantser. I would much rather be a little bit, at least a little bit more of a planner, timeliner type. I'm sure I would be much less frustrated than I sometimes get. But anyway, that's what I have to say about that. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, thank you, ladies.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you so much. This was full of fertile seeds.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Full of fertile seeds. So
Yeah, I think we need to hold our missing co-hosts accountable for doing this exercise, because
Yeah.
don't you want to hear
I do.
what they come up with?
Mhm.
Yeah, I do. I do.
I mean, you and I both pulled on a story that has been pulling on us for a while.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you know how hard those plastic seats are
Yes.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
you know?
Yeah, one of the most difficult memories that I have of travel was at the Paris airport, where I was flying back to New York from France, and I misread the time of my flight by 12 hours. I got there 12 hours too early. I woke
Mm.
up really early in the hotel room and took the cab to be there, and then I realized, oh my gosh. I just had and I was exhausted because I'd only slept for a couple of hours, and just spending the time sleeping but taking care of my stuff and everything on that bench.
Yeah.
That was just an 8-hour ordeal for me, not 18 years.
18 years.
Yeah.
And he had a habit, or he developed a habit of keeping a meticulous diary.
Oh.
And he had all these boxes,
Mm.
bags around himself. So it was like he had a little physical cocoon kind of thing happening, you know. But I
Mm.
still, those seats are not wide enough for a body to lay down on,
Uh-uh.
you know. I mean,
They're designed not to be.
Yeah.
that's it. They don't want people sleeping there.
Yeah.
But he did.
Yeah. Wow.
He did. And he would, I mean, one step out the door and he would have been arrested. One step outside the airport, he would have been arrested because he had no legal right to be in France proper.
Mm-hmm.
It was terrible.
Wow.
It made an impression on me 2 decades ago, and it's still there. The idea of being displaced in that way, with basically no place to be somebody. That's what was happening with him. So
Now, the fascinating milieu around, you just wonder. I mean, you've got the pro bono attorney who saw something through. You've got all the bureaucrats that attorney would have had to work with. You've got the story of the family who, are they okay with this?
they because he had this problem, this inheritance fight with them. They just decided, because it's no such thing of them not knowing his plight. Everybody knew his plight, from the reporters and everybody, because anybody who heard about it just couldn't believe that there was somebody in an airport for all this time. This is a place you pass through. You don't sit, and sit and sit and sit. but he did
Mm.
for 18 years. And so that attorney who gave away all that time was totally nonplussed. It just blew his mind completely. That the guy would say, no, I'm that's okay, I'm staying.
Yeah.
What? What? You know, so anyway, it's a puller, puller
Yeah. Yeah.
story. You
Yeah.
know? Anyway, so our hour is just about up.
Yep.
Kathleen, where should our viewers come to find out more?
They should come to LiLLiPub.org. It's where we hang out when we're not here in YouTube land. So come on over to LiLLiPub.org and join the Roanoke conversation and participate in so many different exciting spaces that we have available in LiLLiPub and join the conversation. We would love to see you there. LiLLiPub.org.
LiLLiPub, yay.
Come join us.
Come join us.
Yeah. Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.